Hello, welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how I set up my irrigation out in the garden for the season. I am going to repurpose everything from last year. I know I broke some of these bigger tubes, so I'll have to replace it, and I expanded the garden. So I know I'm going to need more tubing. I bought the exact same kit that I bought last year. I'll link it down below. It has the same two different sizes of hoses and all of the connectors. You're going to need something to cut the tubing with and a lighter to form fit it to some of your nozzles. Well, let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and just lay out everything that I had and see if it's going to work with my current setup. If it's not going to, then we will adjust as needed, but let's just drag out what we got and see what we're going to need. Before I stretch these out too far, I need to make sure I have the measuring right. These two went to this bed, so I'm going to go ahead and make sure I put these in the bed where I want them first, and then I'm going to take a stake and stake it down right here, so that way I'm not pulling these too far down to where it's going to mess up this one. So let's get these put in the bed. I have the sprayer nozzles on these, so, and they do reach quite a ways. It worked out really well last year. I used these in all of my beds, and I just kind of have them centrally located in the middle-ish. Right there. Right up close to it. Okay. So I'm deciding whether or not, I just put all these sprayers here. This is where I had my tomatoes last year, but I'm going to grow peas up this fence this year. So I'm debating whether or not if I want to set the watering system up differently, because I want to make sure all the peas get a proper amount of water. All the pea plants get a proper amount of water. Okay. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to move all of these over here, because I'm going to have single plants on this side that I'll trellis individually. So I think I'm going to move all those over here, and I'm going to open up the box for one long line, so that and then I can just attach it to the fence to spray down at the plants instead of it being in the ground. I think that would be the best idea for the peas. So let's do that. I know this was like an all-day project last year when I did it, and I imagine that this is going to take me twice as long this time around, since I'm trying to repurpose and reuse all of this tubing. But I mean, I don't want to throw it away when it's perfectly good. I just have to figure out how to piece it together like a puzzle. Essentially, I'm going to want to do like this piece, like this, all the way down. And so these little connectors, it'll water the plant and then allow water to continue to flow through to the next plant, and so on and so forth. So I'm going to go ahead and set all of these sprayers up like this, and I may have to go through and open up the box for these attachments, these little tees. I love them. I use them a lot. And then I will attach it to this. I'm actually going to go look and see if I have a bag of those teas in my house from last year before I open up that box. I really don't want to open the box yet. Yay! Okay, so this is all my stuff from last year that I didn't utilize. So let's dig through this and see what I have. Aha. Well, they're not exactly the same, but it'll pretty much do the same. It's the same work, so let's use these. Well, one in the line, and what I'm going to do is, because I don't have any of the other pieces, so if I have my stuff like this, I need this to end, so I'm going to cap this one off, because my garden, I'm gonna have to fix that. My garden is so big that if I'm not careful, the plants at the end of the lines won't get a lot of water. So this will be the end of the line, and I have multiple water sources going through here, and I can explain that a little bit more later, but I just wanted to show you. So that's what I'm going to do for this to make it work, because I don't have the other ones. This is what they are all looking like. I have the sprinklers, and so now all I need to do is attach tubing through each one of these. All the same. Is this how you're supposed to do it? I really don't know, but this is what I did last year. This worked for me. I figured it doesn't really matter how you're supposed to do it as long as it works for you and it does its purpose. So I'm going to go find some tubing to cut up now, and then I will set you back up on the tripod. Okay, so here is the tubing I'm using. It is all stuff from last year, so I'm going to cut and repurpose as much as I can for this, and let's see how far we can get without having to open up the other box. And I'm not, this is how I'm measuring. I'm going like this. And then I'm just gonna give myself just a little bit more extra, so that way my stuff's not super tight. If it needs to be readjusted later, it can be just a little. So that whole line is done. Now let's go ahead and work on this line, which is going to do all of the peas. And I am going to, what I decided to do is I'm just going to attach the hose to the fence, because I'm going to cut this big chunk of plastic out so I can have peas running all the way down it instead of like individual plants. So then it'll be spraying on all of the lovely veggie plants like it does in the stores, where just pss and just mist everywhere. That's what I'm going for. So let's do that. I have to see if I have enough misters. I'm sure I do. Alright, so I have a bunch of misters. These are the misting nozzles. I have a bunch of those left over from last year. I'll probably go pull all of those. Because like I said, I'm trying to use everything I possibly can before I open the box. So let me go gather up some of those. How many do you think I need for this? At least 10. How many holes do I have? 6, 7, 8. Maybe more than that. Let me go look what I have. So I messed up this section of my video. I didn't realize that I had recorded it in time lapse, and just so you know, there is no fixing that. But pretty much what I'm doing here is I'm showing you that I found all these misters. They already had the connectors on it, and I'm using that garden wire, like what you would use for trellising tomatoes, and I'm using that to attach it to the bottom of the fence so that way it can mist the veggies down below. Moving on to the next section, this is the hose that I broke. It's definitely broke. So we're going to replace this. I have the tubing for it already. However, the hose is not going to be long enough to attach to that. But like I said, since I have added on, I have 3 more beds there in the middle that I'm gonna figure out how to water, and I have more stuff over there. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and use this so I can do the same thing with what I've done on each side. I'm just gonna have to make sure, I mean, I'll test this when I'm all done, make sure it all works, but I need to make sure that I don't put too much on the one side so that the pressure stays up high enough that it can effectively water all the plants. Now that is done, and I can put the 1/4-inch tubing to go that way into my other green or my other raised beds, and I can either cap these off or I can put more out this way. Like I said, I just have to make sure that I don't overdo it so I can make sure it keeps pressure through the whole system. But I'm gonna leave that for now. I'll put a stake in that after I figure out what tubes I'm running off of it, but I'm gonna go ahead and work on the tomato area. Okay, so I opened the box because I want all my tomato plants to be watered the same. I don't want some of them to be getting more water. Most of these nozzles, like all the different colors or the different types, they release a certain amount of water per hour, and I don't want to have some plants being overwatered and some not getting enough. So I went ahead, I opened the box. I'm gonna just try not to touch the tubing. These are really easy just to go buy down at the store, and they look the same, but their connections are not the same. So these must be like an updated version. So I'm just gonna, I wonder if I need to open. It said just to make sure it was inserted fully. So instead of going over something, I'm now going in something. And it does, okay. I mean, it still works. Maybe that means I don't need the lighter now. That would be nice because I burned my hand earlier. Okay, so let's use these and line them up. Okay, so we have a couple of the old ones and then the pack of the new ones. And then I still need the tees, and I have all of this tubing to use. So let's go ahead and start putting these together. Now I don't have holes for all of my tomatoes yet. As you can see, I had 2 bigger holes here from last year where I had plants. But I'm gonna go ahead and just pick and choose my spots, and I'll go through when I get ready to plant, and I'll put them in then. Oh, I do need my knife. And I didn't look in the box to see if I had ends, but I'm gonna have to put an end on this because I don't have the 2-way. I only have the 3-ways, and I'm just gonna work with what I got. I'm not going to go buy all these tiny little things that I may or may not need. I can make it work with what I got. Oh, how do I get that out now? got too many tubes over here. Oh, I guess I won't have to cap it. Durr. I need it like this. And that one already has a tube on it. Let's cut the end of this one off. Maybe. Some of these are, you can tell from last year, they're already melted. And instead of fighting with them, I'm just gonna cut the ends off so I can remelt them. Not sure if you can hear all that extra noise. Ooh, my husband's building a trailer right now. So he's cutting stuff and welding stuff and doing dangerous things. Alright, I think I have space for maybe one more. And then I think I will cap the end of this and I'll use the other line for this one. Yeah. Okay, so I found an old one. So the one I was going to throw away that didn't have the piece, I found one that has the piece but not the top. So I'm just going to take the top off. So sometimes it comes in handy to just not throw everything away right away, you know? Don't even think about it, ma'am. You stay away from my veggies. I thought. Oh, that's a chicken, by the way, if you are trying to wonder what I'm talking about. Most of my birds are all in the coop, but I have a couple that are still out because Miss Peaches, my pig, got in there and broke the door into the aviary, and so there's still some loose ones out, and they're a lot harder to catch than you would think, especially when they're just out in pasture. I'm like, I am not going to go out and chase you in the pasture with the cows, like have the cows go. No, we're not doing that. So I'm catching them as I can when they come in, but there's still a few out. Okay. Ouch. Still hot. Alright. Now, this whole section is done. And now I'm going to work on the other section. Like I said, this is very time consuming and it takes a long time. especially like me reusing and repurposing things, trying to find the right pieces to fit like a puzzle is going to take me a little bit longer. But in my eyes, it's definitely worth it because I won't have to come out here and water. I can focus on tending to my plants, making sure they're getting the right nutrients, pulling weeds, and focusing on other chores that need my attention, you know, in the evenings or mornings, whatever. So this is personally the best way for me to do it. The people that lived here before, there's sprinkler heads everywhere, and they just did overhead sprinklers for everything. But I honestly like watering from the ground up anyways. It's better for the plants, and especially when everything starts fruiting and blooming, you don't necessarily want all the water coming down from above. You want to be watering at the roots. It helps avoid diseases, keeps the plants healthier, and the overhead watering everything, it's so weedy out here. It was too hard for me to keep up, and this has definitely worked for me. Mulching, using landscape fabric or plastic, and then just spot watering where my plants are, and setting up this drip irrigation has been a game changer for me. So might take just a little bit of a break, but on to the next. Let's see what we can get done. I have, she's in my, get out of there. Told you. Okay, I'm back. Peaches, no. Peaches. I'm back. It's the next day. I had to take a break. I promised my services to my sister-in-law yesterday. I was helping her build a turkey coop. So you've seen me put together all of these, and like I said, the ones in my raised beds, I was able to just re-put the systems back in place that I had last year because it worked out fine. I'm gonna go ahead and turn it on and test it out and make sure that everything on this side of the garden is working fine, and if there's any hitches or leaks, I'll show you how I fix that. And then that will be the conclusion of this video. I still need to do the south half of my garden, but if I take you guys along for that ride, this will literally be like an hour-long video. So you kind of got the basics of like how I like to set up my drip irrigation. That's what I'm going to be doing for the other half. I will continue to utilize whatever I already have and use this box behind me, that new box of irrigation tubing, and the little nozzles, and use that as I need it. So let's test it out. Let's see if it works. Now, after getting all the irrigation set up, I like to set everything up on a timer. It works out really well for me, like when I go out on vacations, or just knowing that my garden is taken care of every day, and I can use that time to pull weeds or take care of the animals or do anything else that I need to do. So I like to set this depending on the season. You know, when it's really hot, I can have it go off twice a day for 30 minutes. You know, in the early springtime like it is now, it doesn't need a whole lot of water, but it still needs consistent watering. So I'll probably start off with 20 minutes once a day, and I'll do it in the evening, so it's still about the same time that I'd come home and do my round on the animals and make sure everyone is good and set for the night. I can also come through and double check the irrigation, everything's still working, nothing's gotten moved and pulled apart. That way I can make sure my plants all get the proper amount of water and they can continue to thrive. I have one that is set up for 2 different hoses, so everything you've seen me do will be off of one hose, and the north side of my garden will be off the other hose. Now I do that just because I have so much that I'm individually watering that I want to maintain pressure throughout the lines, and that's why I have it set up on 2 different hoses. So for instance, I'll have this one run at 6:30 and this side run at 7. So then that way everything's getting their proper amount of water, there's enough pressure so everything's getting pushed through. And I mean, you can buy these really easily at any kind of hardware farm store, Home Depot, Walmart. I think they even have them that come in 3s and 4s, but I just simply don't need that. Now, there is a filter in here, so depending on your area, for instance, I run off of a well, so sometimes you gotta pull that little screen out. It'll get clogged up like with sand or gunk, depending on what kind of a water source you're using. And that is the gist of that. It makes it super easy. It has all the spots here to say how often, how long. You set your timer for what you want your garden to be watered at, what frequency, and then you are set to go. I forgot that I added this little section, so I clearly need to cap off or put tubes on this for me to be able to test this. So let me do that real quick. Okay, I got that capped off. Let's try that again. All right, let's go check it out. I'm gonna unwind you here. I can hear them going in my beds. Can I come in, please? Well, those ones are clearly working. These are working. This one is not. Might just have a clog in the line. Oh, maybe I didn't open these up yet. There we go. They're not open yet. And clearly I still have to go through and put actual holes here, but just testing out here. Okay, so all the new ones have to be turned on. Got it. Sometimes you'll get some that aren't the best nozzles, but we're also kind of at the end of the line here, so we're not going to have as much pressure maybe. Nope, everything looks, I'll just have to open them up more. They look good. So far so good. Okay, now let's check out the other side. Dribble, dribble, dribble. Oh, getting all my shit wet over here, because I left it all out with the hopes of coming back out and finishing it, but I was just too darn tired yesterday by the time I got home. Okay, so works. Turn it on. Oh, this one might be clogged. All right, and I got a couple of these that are working. Oh, they're dripping. They're dripping. I just have to go through and ew. Sometimes they're just a little bit clogged. You can take them completely apart and wash them or soak them in like a vinegar solution to help break up some of that hard water or whatever gunk might be in it. So I'll go through and make sure all those are nice and cleaned out. But it's looking like we're good to go. All right, and that is how I set up my drip irrigation every year for my garden. I will continue to do this exact same thing but on that side of the garden. And like I said, that would be like an hour-long video, so I'm just doing the exact same thing, picking and choosing where I want my drip irrigation to go, kind of how I have my garden planned out. But as always, thank you for joining me, and I will see you guys next time.